Today on the program, our focus is going to be on the economy. Now, every quarter, the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry does a review of the economy, and very recently, it also carried out another review of the economy. And today on the program, that's going to be the focus of our conversation. I'm being joined by the Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Muda Yusuf. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Muda.
Thank you.
And to my immediate left is the National Vice President of the National Association of Small Scale Industrialists, Duru Kutei. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Well, Muda, let me start with you. The LCCI did a recent review of the economy, and this was actually made known to the press and to the public yesterday. What was the overall assessment? Is the economy doing well?
Well, the assessment of the economy will depend on the perspective from which you are looking at it.
Okay.
You know, if an economist is assessing the economy, the economist may be looking at the key economic variables, looking at GDP, looking at inflation, looking at foreign reserves,
and the exchange rate
stability, all those variables. You know, if the outcome of that looks good, the verdict from an economist will be that, okay, this economy is sound.
Okay.
You know. But if an investor, a private sector player like Mr. Duru Kutei here, is assessing the economy, if you are assessing the economy within the context of the operating environment, how conducive is the environment for business? So if the economist is saying that this economy is good, and the man who is running a business is facing a lot of challenges within the economic environment, certainly the verdict of that kind of investor will be that this economy is not a very sound
Okay,
economy.
so let's hear from the private investor now. How would you rate the economy in the last couple of quarters? Has it been good business for small-scale industrialists?
For small scale, we always have our complaints, and when you look at it, you now ask us, how well have we done in the past maybe 3 months or 4 months based on your analysis? Then I will tell you that nothing has changed much in terms of the operating environment, and looking at how electricity affects us, how interest rates affect us, because within the 3 months there have been change in interest rates on the high side.
Yes, change in interest of what the banks give to
the SMEs or industrialists, or there hasn't been any improvement anyway. Then again, you now look at, if after getting a facility from Bank of Industry, which is basically for the purchase of machines, equipment, but the working capital itself, to make the machine work, to make everybody happy and produce probably for export or for local use, the facility is not there, or the interest rate is high. At the same time, this is not encouraging massive production in the industrial area.
But you see that there have been recent moves now by the government to try to, make getting access quite easy, especially with interventions from the CBN and the rest of it. Is it that these funds haven't hit the market, or the industrialists haven't made any effort or made any moves to try to get access to these funds?
No, what I said is, okay, look at the fund that are being channeled towards promoting industry in Nigeria, from Central Bank to Bank of Industry. And from Bank of Industry, you get it at 10%, which is restricted in a way that is for the capital equipment. Then where do you get the money to do the day-to-day running of the factory? At what interest rate? This is where we are. And there has been no improvement on this, because it's commercial bank that is giving out loan at their own rate. Until this area is resolved in a way that what Bank of Industry is giving us is plus working capital. And then the commercial bank can manage. But then another thing is what we will be comfortable with. It's like government coming out to say this is how much percentage of your loan, I mean the commercial bank, to the SME at this interest rate. Probably the government will subsidize the interest rate to the banks, either giving us a facility at their own interest rate, and the government is paying part of that interest rate so that it will make life easier for the SMEs. And that, you know, even a governor has even accepted to do that.
Okay.
And if this one is made into the national policy in a way to promote SME, in a way that if SME is doing fine, people in the street will be employed. Then there will be much money in the pocket of everybody. And then the crime rate will also go down. But if we say it's too hard to do, then this time around you can see those who have money, they go out with maybe 1 or 2 policemen around them.
Okay, now Muda, let's take a look at the rest of that report. There were a number of variables which were actually mentioned, and you already started speaking about them. That's the GDP, inflation, the foreign reserves, and the likes of it. Now let's look at the new foreign exchange policy of the CBN, which was actually raised in that report, especially the dollarization of the economy. What does organized private sector have? Do they have any issues, you know, with the this new policy by the Central Bank of Nigeria on the on the amount of dollars that should be in circulation?
Yes, the CBN policy that have been designed to deal with the challenge of dollarization of the economy, I think it's a good move on the part of the Central Bank of Nigeria, because you have the Naira, which is a legal tender, and you will not want a situation where you now see, you know, transaction now taking place in dollars. So that is the whole essence of trying to curb dollarization. But my own view about the policy, looking at it in a holistic way, I think it's more to do with wanting to check money laundering. Because as we get close to the period of election, there is a tendency for some monies that have been carted away to, you know, people like to bring them back to the economy, exchange, you know, to fund all the activity that has to do with the election. And what the CBN has said is that from the data available to the CBN, Nigeria is now the largest importer of dollars. You know, that really is suspect. And that is why I think the CBN is taking that kind of step.
Okay, so what was organized private sector?
Said that, the measures that have been rolled out by the CBN is beginning to have some unintended consequences. First, the supply side of the parallel markets, the road exchange, parallel market, interbank, is now being seriously affected. And you know, exchange rate is about supply and demand. If you have a situation where there is a sharp drop in supply, the exchange rate will go up. So we have seen now a very drastic depreciation in the parallel market. And the implication of that is that you're now beginning to see a widening of the gap in the exchange rate between the official market and the parallel market, and even the bureau de change. In the official market now, it's about 155, 156 max. In the parallel market, there was a time it got to as high as 168.
Yes.
You know? So if you have that kind of premium, that itself is a problem. Because there is what you call round tripping. It's a major incentive for round tripping. And what that means is that if you have a premium of almost 10 naira, and somebody is smart enough to cross $1 million from the official market to the parallel market, that's a windfall of almost 10 million naira. I mean, what can be more profitable?
More profitable.
Than even for an industrialist. It's not a legitimate thing to do, though, but it creates a lot of temptation. Because if you have been given maybe $1 million for raw materials or for some machineries and things, and you have done your calculations, your return on investment maybe is just 25%, and you have this window where you can just convert the dollar and take it to the parallel market and sell, you know. So it creates a whole lot of issues, corruption issues, the tendency to divert, you know, the official funds to the parallel market, and all sorts of bureaucratic issues. And you also notice that there is a reversion now to from the wholesale dot auction to retail dot auction. We have gone through this route before, and we had to come back. The documentation requirement is too much. Because what the policy is saying is that for every demand for forex, there has to be documentation. Which is what you see,
the Central Bank of Nigeria is just trying to exercise its powers to maintain stability, you know, in the economy. And well, going back to the RDAS, maybe they've sorted out the challenges that were experienced in the previous time when they were using it and had to drop it to go back to WDAS and now back to the RDAS. So,
you see, in their own opinion, this going back and forth.
Well, it's all in a bid to ensure that the economy, you know, is stabilized.
Of course, I have no doubt that they are doing this in good faith. I have no doubt. What I'm saying is that in practical terms, the challenges are enormous. The documentations are enormous. The whole idea is to track the transactions and the flow of foreign exchange. Under the WDAS, normally if the banks bid for the foreign exchange, there is a way they document and account for what they have taken. So you can still track it under the WDAS system. Rather than saying that for every demand, every customer has to come with documentation that will now be taken to the CBN for the bidding. It's very cumbersome and could create a whole lot of problem. We have had interactions with stakeholders on this, and this is the outcome of some of the things you see in this report. We are suggesting that it is better to go back to the WDAS system. It is less cumbersome, and you can now step up monitoring of all of it. It's even more difficult to monitor the retail dot auction system. What is the staff strength of the CBN to now be going through all these documents one by one, bank by bank, almost every week? It's so enormous and so challenging. So the issues we have, first, the supply side effects on the parallel market. And don't forget, this economy has a large informal sector. And there is nothing inherently wrong in having an informal sector. Most of these, the operators in this sector, source their forex either from Bureau de Change and the parallel market. They do so not so much because they want to do anything criminal, although of course there will always be some criminal elements in any system, but because of the speed of transaction. I mean, you take a typical spare parts environment, our brothers who contribute money and say, okay, you come and go to China, go and bring us 2 containers of spare parts. They want to do that immediately, contribute the money, exchange their money and fly off. But if you go through the documentation of the banks, these people don't have the patience for that kind of thing, because you could be on that for another 1 or 2 weeks.
And business doesn't usually wait for anybody anyway.
Profits, so these are some of the things that breach the growth of the informal sector. And the bulk of these people source their funds from this market. So if you have a depreciation, as you are beginning to have in the exchange rate in that market, it could lead to inflationary conditions. It could worsen inflation.